Good morning, friends. Today I want to take 5 minutes to do a deep dive on how I work with IBS. I've had a couple of women reach out this week who are struggling with irritable bowel. And a lot of times our mainstream options are underwhelming. And then sometimes when we're going through alternative healthcare, the options are underwhelming. If you're new to my world, my name is Dr. Chelsea Iltz. I'm a doctor of naturopathic medicine. I'm a doctor of classical Chinese medicine. And I study and train in functional health science, functional medicine, which means I bring kind of a unique perspective in healthcare. I love the science. I love all of the functional labs and what we can find through those modalities, but I also really love the energetics and how our psychology and how the way that we're actually living our life plays in a big way into our health. And IBS is one of those conditions because it's nervous system mediated that we get into kind of a funky place where there is a little bit of woo and there's a lot of science that we can use to help create lasting change. Whenever I'm working with someone who has this coming in, number one, I want to work on regulating the nervous system, looking at stress states. So whether there's a lot of anxiety in the day, depression, whether there's a lot of fight flight energy or just kind of hustling, go, go, go kind of energy in the day, it's really important that we learn to regulate this. What this means is having mindfulness. Think about it like a muscle. When we're training a muscle really hard, it's not bad to be really high achieving. It's not bad to be really productive. It's not bad to have stress in your life. Sometimes we hear this and it's not bad to be a go-getter and be in the world and doing the things. We do want to counterbalance it. We do want to create enough ease and spaciousness as well so that you're not in such a heightened nervous system state. One of my teachers has put it like, if we had stress as a scale, if we could say, how stressed out am I as a baseline on the scale of 1 to 10? Anytime we're at that 7 out of 10 or higher, we start to go into dysregulated states where kind of like the nervous system takes over to save us from the bear, to like make sure things are happening, that we're fighting, we're flighting, we're freezing, whatever it might be. And capacity is that space between our baseline and the 7 out of 10. So if your baseline stress in the course of a day, because you're so on point, is like a 5 out of 10, you don't have a whole lot of capacity. With mindfulness practices, we can actually grow that capacity to where baseline stress starts to drop and drop and drop to where maybe in the day your baseline's like, hey, I'm at a 2 out of 10 most of the time. I'm at a 3 out of 10 most of the time. And then when things come up, of course, it changes. But for people struggling with IBS, creating more and more of that capacity becomes really important so that there's not a hyperexcitability happening in the digestive system. Once we're at this place, then I like to go into digestive health, creating really good digestive health. Being a nervous system mediated condition, there are things in the digestive tract that can irritate the piss out of your nervous system. Foods can do it. Microbes can do it. Also toxicity, heavy metals, things that we're getting exposed to, alcohol, different things that are inflammatory or toxic to the nervous system tissue can also do it. To address it, there are a couple labs that I really like to run. I do food sensitivities on all of my remote clients. One example of this is the MRT test. Another is something called LCAT. I like those a million times more than IgG. I know you can get a cheap blood spot IgG food sensitivity test on the internet, but the thing is that they're not really clinically useful in the moment. I can see that maybe you had a food sensitivity to something a while back, but I can't see if you've actually recovered from it. And truth be told, you can recover from food sensitivities. So when you get this test, it doesn't mean you can't eat strawberries forever. It just means you need a little bit of rehabilitation before your body can tolerate exposure to strawberry without creating a ton of inflammation. So food sensitivity is one test that I run. The second one is something called the GI map, this monster test here. It's a stool test. Super helpful because we get an entire readout on your microbiome and get to see all the probiotics that are there, as well as all of the parasites, opportunistic bacteria, all of the things that are creating inflammation and irritating the nervous system. So rather than guessing and throwing a bunch of different antimicrobials and herbs and all of these things like some providers do, we can be really laser focused and give you specifically what your body needs in order to overcome any microbial challenges. And they go hand in hand. So if there's been a lot of nervous system a lot of stress, there's been a lot of irritability, all of these things going on, it can create inflammation in the gut that allows for you to become sensitive to foods. It allows for microbes that shouldn't be there to start colonizing and populating. And also, if you've gotten into like maybe a bad parasite, something like this, it can create more stress and nervous system tension. It can create leaky gut where you become sensitive to different foods. So it's not one or the other. I treat all of them to make sure that we're covering all of the bases, because honestly, if this has been going on for a long time, chances are the whole thing is happening. And only then, once the gut is in a really good place, can we start looking at things like toxicity and toxic issues that could also be irritating. But usually by that point, this is likely 2 months into working together. So really not a long time. You've been struggling with IBS for years and years. And seriously, 2 to 3 months of your life, you can be completely transformed when it comes to your gut health and irritability in the intestine. But with that solid foundation, we have the ability to go into toxicity and to start creating big change there, pulling out gunk that you might be holding into in your fat tissue. So that's my big overview of IBS and how I address and treat it. Any questions, feel free to just drop into the chat below, and I'm happy to answer them and start making some of this higher level medicine more accessible to you in your life. Lots of love. Have a great day. Bye-bye.